Hello everybody, just a fair warning, and I have the common cold right now, so if I sound sick, it's because I am. So my voice will be a little more nasally than usual, and that's okay, but I'm sick. And also, so you might come out a little bit later because of that, and I've been suffering all week because of it, so just enjoy the video as well as you can. Sorry my voice is nasally at the moment. It will be probably better by next week. And let's get on with the video. So today we're going to be reviewing Godzilla vs. Mothra, also known as Godzilla vs. The Thing. Godzilla vs. Mothra is also seen as one of the best Godzilla films of all time. There's a good reason for that. It has some of the best Godzilla scenes in any of the films, and also some of the best acting of any of the Godzilla films besides the first one. Considering Godzilla's track record in the 60s, you can see why this film stands out. Although it does have one of the silliest looking Godzilla designs of the entire franchise. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Think about it, I already said this is one of the best Godzilla films of all time, so how do you think the Godzilla scenes are going to be? Of course, they are fantastic. These are some of the best Godzilla scenes ever put to film. The only problem I really see with all the Godzilla scenes is how derpy Godzilla's design is. But even a while after that, you kind of get used to it, so it's not that big of a problem with the film. It's not even one of the worst designs, but it is up there. I mean, of course, it's nowhere near as bad as Son of Godzilla or Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, but it is up there. It's one of the worst designs in the series, but it's not the worst. And again, it's not saying much to be Son of Godzilla, so don't take that as a compliment, this movie. And the other problem in this film is also some of the green screens. More or less not a problem, but it's mainly just distracting and a little bit goofy. But besides that, the Godzilla scenes in this film are just awesome. There's so many highlight scenes in this film, I'm just going to list off a few. Fight scene between Godzilla vs. Mothra, Godzilla being sprayed by the twins, and Godzilla coming out of the ground for his first appearance. There are just too many awesome Godzilla scenes in this film for me to count. And that is quite possibly why this is one of the best well-known and one of the best remembered movies in all the Godzilla franchise. Because it is one of the best movies of the Godzilla franchise. So, let's see what I gave this film the score-wise for its Godzilla scene. For the Godzilla scenes in this movie, I gave it a 9 out of 10. And these are some of the best Godzilla scenes put to film. There's no reason why it should be below this. I mean, it's nowhere near as good as the Godzilla scenes in GMK, which is a perfect 10, but this is great for an early 60s Godzilla film if you want the goofiness factor as well. And everything does well with this film. There are a couple of problems with the scenes, but besides that, this is some of the best you're going to see in the franchise. Let's go on to the next point. The acting in this film is also one of its high points. As Godzilla actors go, because usually it's pretty terrible, these are some of the best of the entire franchise. But you gotta remember, I'm grading the acting off of other films as well, so Godzilla franchise doesn't really get a pass for this. But for Godzilla acting, it's not bad. It's actually pretty good. Although it is nowhere near as good as the acting in GMK or Godzilla vs. Destroyer, it is good for early Godzilla. Although none of the acting in the early Godzilla films will ever pass the original Godzilla film. This would also be the first appearance of Mothra in the entire franchise, and the first with the twins, which is always an interesting part of the movie. There's some questionable scenes with the villagers, but besides that, the acting is good for what it sets out to do. And that's why I give the acting a final score of 6 out of 10. Nothing in the acting department screams that it is bad, but it doesn't exactly help that I'm reviewing the dubbed copy. And I'm sure if you've ever seen a Godzilla movie dubbed, I'm sure you know how bad the dubbing is. But besides that point, the Godzilla film acting in this is not half bad, and it's actually some of the best of the franchise, especially considering how bad acting is in the 60s Godzilla films. Like, it's really bad. Some of the worst acting you'll ever see in some of the 60s Godzilla films, but we're not going to get into that because we're talking about this movie. So let's go on to the next part. Now for the cinematography. Well, cinematography in a Godzilla film usually is not always the best. This film actually does it well. Every shot flows really well in this film, and it is all shot in style. while staying simple at the same time. Every set that Godzilla destroys feels believable, and it doesn't feel like it feels like a man in a suit just been turned giant and is walking throughout the entire city, destroying buildings. While the questionable blue screen's effects might hold it down a little bit, it finally shows that Toho knew what they were doing with this one. The sets are some of the best done in the entire franchise. The scene where Godzilla destroys the tallest building in town is just awesome, and it's possibly my favorite shot in any of the Godzilla films. And that is why I give the cinematography in this film a final score of 7 out of 10. While the film has some of the best shots of the entire franchise, the blue screen effects and the Godzilla suit hold it back a lot, because the Godzilla suit in this film freaking sucks. It sucks bad. It's some of the worst suiting I've ever seen. It's so bad. It's so bad. Why did they include this? And now finally the soundtrack of the film. This film has some of the best soundtrack of any of the Godzilla series, and there's a good reason why. This film almost has entirely new soundtrack, and it's all well done by Akira Ifukube. I probably didn't pronounce that correctly. Every song in this film goes so well with whatever is going on screen at this film. So it helps the film flow a lot better than it normally would, because the soundtrack is just so well done for this movie. So finally I give this soundtrack a final score of 9 out of 10, because this is some of the best music in the entire franchise. You never hear music this good in the rest of the franchise, except for maybe Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, and Godzilla, the original film. But now let's go on to the final part, which is my final thoughts. And finally for my final thoughts. While this film does have some of the best Godzilla scenes and music in the entire franchise, the acting held it down a smudge. So that is why it gets a final score of 7.5 out of 10. And come back next week for Godzilla King of the Monsters review. In the same style, but it's a brand new movie. Exciting. See you guys next week, or maybe Monday, because this probably could be taken down by Toho. So, see you guys later.